Welcome back, everyone. All right, more Shadowdark. I'm excited for this episode. Okay, so we last left off Torson interacting with Diomedes, the Minotaur leader of this Minotaur maze complex, also known as Markaborian, within the mountain range of the Oracle's Teeth in the Perilous Badlands. Quick summary of everything that has happened so far for those that want to know. Torson had left his small forest river village known as Ostlin, I believe is the name that I gave it. Ostlin, yes. And was making his way through the Oracle's Teeth, these mountains here, and only gotten so far before he got lost, and then stumbled into this Minotaur leader, Diomedes, who effectively taught him how to speak his language, Thanian. And that's effectively what we ended up at, with some tumultuous Shadowdark encounters in the under regions of the maze itself. He rose up, failing forward into figuring out how to speak to Diomedes, with the leader saying, "It's dangerous to go alone. You should be traveling with a companion." And that's where we last left off. And without making a bunch of rolls going forward with that, I just decided it was time for Torson to have an actual traveling companion. So I actually created a ancestry just for this campaign, just very loose, not play tested, not balanced in any way, just something that would thematically work for the story. Well, I created Diomedes, a character, a invoker priest, level 3. I decided to make him a little more powerful overall in capabilities than Torson, as he is a leader of some sort in this place. So I decided to allow him to still use his great axe that was by default part of his look. And one great little thing that I thought was pretty cool is that I had described on the cuff these ribbon type things hanging off of his great axe, and I actually am going to have that be his holy symbol to Geed, the neutral god. And his background is blacksmith, so he probably rose up from being someone who created the armor and arms for this Minotaur maze complex, Markaborian, into being a leader of some sort. That is left to be figured out down the road if we ever get there. But yes, so he is a priest of Geed. And he currently has the following spells: Cure Wounds, Holy Weapon, Protection from Evil, and of course Turn Undead. And because he's level 3, he gets a tier 2 spell, Augury. Now, Augury is an interesting spell for the soloist because it reads basically this: you interpret the meaning of supernatural portents and omens. Ask the GM one question about a specific course of action, and the GM says whether the action leads to weal or woe. Now, from the GM's perspective or the player's perspective of playing a solo game, we ask the Oracle things all the time. Now, what's interesting is that there's a difference between what we roll and what the characters find out. And this enables the character of Diomedes to find out stuff that we already know. And this is just going to be a nice tool to help me try to separate the player knowledge from character knowledge. And I know that's kind of a difficult thing for us to do as solo players. So, of course, before I go any further, I forgot to start my, quote, torch timer / secession timer. And that is my little guide here for the game. Anyway, so I just bought these like black like index, not index, business card things, and I have a white pen that I just wrote these on for myself. I think this is really cool way of doing spells in Shadowdark. So we have those at our disposal, and we have Diomedes to join us in this journey. Torson and Diomedes. Now, one thing I do want to sort of address a little bit is the fast and loose way that I've been doing light in this game. And while mechanically at the table, it works fine with live action. For me, doing what I do here, a sand hourglass for an hour-long session is just a good way of doing the light in the game. And as I had said previously, for every session, I'm going to remove a torch. And as we know, Torson came out of the underbelly of Mark Borean without a torch. And we need to address that. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove some... He found this silver tooth, right, down there in the underbelly of Mark Borean. Now, that was worth an XP, but he also needs to acquire some more materials. So the gear that I want him to have is... So, regularly speaking, a torch is 5 silver, right? And takes up two gear slots. So my thinking is that after he meets Diomedes and talks with him and learns that Diomedes has been trying to recruit him for whatever reason, and maybe we'll roll for that in a second here if I remember, but Torson needs to resupply. He's got 1 rations and he's got no torches left. So what we're going to do is we're going to exchange this silver tooth, and now he can understand, basically he can speak broken Thanian and go to the merchant stall area and talk to the Minotaur merchant there and find his basic supplies. So he's going to stock up on rations and get a couple more torches. All for the low cost of the silver tooth and a good tail. I will roll, however, hit a general charisma check for just his performance. Now, at the table normally, you wouldn't need to roll something like this. This is just a simple exchange, but for me right now, I just need a little spark on how well that goes. Oh yeah, this is a custom painted dice urn that I got from... I have never been able to pronounce his name. He's the author of For Against Darkness, but I bought this custom painted dice box off of him. Andrea I apologize. but if you look up For Against Darkness, you will find out his name. And I bought this quite a few years ago, actually. And it's an amazing little piece of art. And on the bottom, it has 4 AD on it. And I just think it's an amazing addition to my table. So I'm just going to pick up my dice that I'm going to use for today's session. Right, let's use the white and black for advantage and disadvantage. And D8 and D10s for the various things I need them for. D8 and D10. Where's the D10? There it is. Okay. That's all I need today. Put those over there. It's always nice when you have a good setup and everything just fits and flows well. I feel very blessed to be able to have this space to record and to just play. It's really nice. Okay, so Diomedes is, or Torson is going to exchange, trade, not necessarily sell, but exchange for some, to fill up on his rations. He's only going to get 2 more rations, so he has a total of 3. He could get more, but 3 rations is fine. And torch. And torch. I, of course, did not pick light as a spell for Diomedes. I had a reason, and the quick answer is he has been able to see in low light basically his whole life because of where he lives, and I've allowed him to be able to see in low light and not just darkness necessarily, because narratively Torson was wandering around the halls and there were lit torches around as per those tiles that we had used. So I just went with it, and it made sense, and it kind of helped narratively. So I thought that was cool that Diomedes was slightly different than other, quote, monsters or dark adjusted beings in Shadowdark. I know this kind of bucks the standard for what Shadowdark is supposed to be, but it's my game. So, all right. Diomedes leads Torson through other places in the Minotaur maze and collects some resources and things to take. Now, Diomedes does not speak common. He had grown up in this place, and so therefore he did not learn common. And in fact, because Torson was trying to speak common, Diomedes, as we discovered, could not understand him. It was just speaking in his native tongue, Thanian. So this will be an interesting dynamic between the two, and also those that they meet on the road and in town and such, where in theory Minotaurs are seen as possible enemies. So we'll see what happens. So a little bit of bookkeeping here. So he doesn't really have much on him. He has his great axe, his chainmail, and some rations. And I think as a priest, obviously he has his holy symbol, which are these ribbons that are tied to his great axe that he can take off if needs to. And of course, I think he's going to probably carry a lantern and some oil. So he is not starting with any money, but because he was a leader of this place, I think he's going to acquire, I'm going to say he has some oil, but not a lantern. He hasn't needed a lantern. So I'm going to say that he can acquire oil. So he has a flask of oil. And that is something that he can use if they get a lantern. Or he can use it as an impromptu weapon, of course, down the road. All right. And if we had remembered, Torson had... Oh, don't need this one. Well, yeah. Torson had found a way from the hex that he's currently in, which is in this book, The Perilous Badlands, in Hex 42, into Hex 31. And going into Hex 31 is trivial in terms of difficulty because he had already pathed it. We might roll for one encounter, like along the path that he's already going to go on. And then we will continue on with the standard rolls as per the rules of Shadowdark. This area is deadly, so every hour that they spend in here, I'm going to roll the d6, and of course on a 1, it is an encounter. In fact, I want to change my encounter die to this black one here. I'm going to visually try to represent some stuff. I'm going to try to remember too with the dice as well. If we need a D100 roll, I'll just roll these guys. 2d6 rolls. There's not a lot of them, but I will roll these guys. The weapon dice are the D8 and D10 for both of their weapons, actually. A great axe is a D8 and a D10 respectively, if you wield it in one hand versus two hand. And Torson's Bastard Sword is the same. So that's interesting. And then advantage and a disadvantage if we need it. And so, yeah. And then will be the encounter die. If I remember all that, great. If I don't, it's not really a big deal. I just like to have various different dice for things. So, we're going to try to move from Hex 42 to Hex 31. That's our goal with Torson and Diomedes. But I think along the way, I think they're going to try to learn more about each other. And what I would love to do is to roll on a table of kind of traits for Diomedes. When we roll like a random character, like NPC stuff, I think that's what I want to do. Rival crawlers, right? Or rather NPCs. So we have these qualities. And we do know a little bit about Diomedes from our interactions. We do know that he is curious, right? Because of how those NPC reaction went when he first met Torson. So he's not immediately someone who is easily irritated or something like that, especially during a social interaction. And maybe that is one of the reasons why he became a leader over some other Minotaur. I don't know. But I would like to roll a secret on the Shadowdark NPC qualities list. And we'll see what this might have. He was a blacksmith, so obviously a lot of that history and those talents will come into play down the road. Yeah, we will see. Let's just roll a d20 real quick and see what secret. Now, if it doesn't make sense, because we've already established that he has lived in this place most of his life, so we might tweak what that means in relation to, well, where he is. So we got 11. So 11 for a secret is in deep gambling debt. So he doesn't seem to me as a gambling being. But I will say, as a leader, maybe he's done some trade deals from other traders when they would go through the mountains, and maybe he is in debt to some merchant traders. So that's what I'm gonna put, actually. So in debt to merchant traders. I know that's a kind of a merchant traders are it's yeah, I know. In my head it flows better than saying one or the other. Good tea. All right. Let us get on with some mechanics. I think Diomedes is going to start with 1 luck as well. I always forget to use it, though, sometimes. Current HP is 17, AC is 13. When I rolled his stats, I did roll, and I chose one of his highest for the wisdom stat, which is for priest spellcasting. But then I re-rolled. Well, long story short, I did a roll 6, and then I applied 1, and then whatever was left, I applied down the line. So strength is 14, dex is 10, con is 12, intelligence is 10, wisdom is 17, charisma is 12. So not that bad. Torson, his rolls were pretty bad, but it leads to some interesting story stuff. So that's always cool. So the next stop is to make a traversal roll of just 1 encounter roll while they make their way northeast into the next hex. It's going to take a few hours, and as they step out, Diomedes talks to one of his, helpers, and Inthanian basically explains, I need to get some experience to become a better leader. I will make sure to bring back the knowledge that I have about the outside world to us, and we shall become better, and we shall become stronger. And so he passes on a little token, and Torson doesn't really see it, but it's probably a passage, a rite that has, like, I am in charge, that kind of thing, to the next in line. So with that, Diomedes does a slight head nod and basically says in Inthanian, let's go, Torson. Okay, and then they head out, and let's roll to see how their journey goes throughout the Oracle's Teeth region. A 5. So that first few hours going through the region goes without a hitch. And as they basically step into this much larger mountain that looks, and they look up, and it's permanently encrusted in ice and snow. And indeed, it is very cloudy, and there's a gathering of mist and dense cloud up at the top. And Torson says to Diomedes in broken Thanian, we go there. I need to find answers. And with that, they step into this next hex. So what I want to do is go into my hexes on page 31. I'm going to go to page 31 here, and we're just going to enter 31. Yes, here we go. So this is a special hex. I just had my pencil. There we go. So this is hex 31. And just real quick, this is mountain and Arctic. So it's cold and mountainous. So it's very, very, it's basically it's always going to be arduous, all the travel. If I want to travel into the next hex, it'll just take 8 hours. It'll take the entire day. And we've already spent half the day to get in here. So they're not going to get very far into this hex, and they might find something interesting. They may not. So we're going to just do mountain, comma, and then Arctic. So we will be rolling on both of those random tables to see what happens while we are in this hex. And it's also special. So the special just means to me that there is something unique about this tile that is different than everything else. So let's do that. And indeed, we are going to roll every hour while they travel. And what I love about this system is that it does, not even that it favors solo play, but it allows an easy way to proceduralize travel and to make it interesting enough to add story, but also it doesn't necessarily need to slow it down, because I can just roll 6 of these for the duration of 6 hours while we're here, and then go through every die roll as hour 1 this happened, hour 2 this happened, and that's really cool. I will try that at the table with my family when I play this, hopefully tomorrow. But I'm gonna see odds. We roll on the Arctic. Evens we roll on the mountain. Even mountains. So let's roll on the mountain table. And these are mountain encounters, but let's see if we even have an encounter on the first hour. 6. So they are traveling along, and while it is still day, I believe that the weather in this hex is basically always cold. It's either windy and cold, it is either foggy and cold, snowing, sleet, or just, bitter cold. But it's never truly sunny. It's just cold in this hex all the time. I have an idea on what that means and why it's happening, but the characters don't have any idea. So Torson is checking his region, and he's going through the hex, and he's trying to find his way through. Now, he's not very good. Neither of them have a bonus to their intelligence rolls to navigate. And indeed, I would even give the Minotaur disadvantage on those rolls currently, just because he has not been used to being out and about this far away from home in a long time, or ever. So I will say that Torson is going to try to find a path upward toward the peak where he's heard the rumor of an actual oracle or seer or a witch, somebody of high knowledge lives or is in residence or can be spoken to at the top of the mountain. So let's have him roll. And this is just that first hour. So every hour he's going to be doing these navigation checks as well. Torson or Diomedes might step in, but Torson is basically going to be my main character. And if story-wise it makes sense, Diomedes might step in. He rolls a 10, unfortunately minus 2, which is 8. I was going to say this was hard, and I always forget to set the DC. It was going to be hard, which is I think 15. 12 is normal, 15 is hard, and 18 is extreme. So he fails on that roll, and effectively that means that they're going to be lost a little bit. So it's going to take a little bit more to find the top and find a path. So that's going to add some more travel time. And they've been traveling for several hours now and into this new place. Let's roll for the next hour. We're all good. And I am going to have... if Torson fails again, I think Diomedes might attempt, even though it's at a disadvantage. So this is still going to be a hard DC. Ooh, we got a 6. Again, he fails his roll. And they're stumbling through the rocks that's snow covered. Some has ice and they're slipping and everything like that. And with this failure, it's 2 in a row. They're basically absolutely lost, and they're going to have a traveling mishap. And these kind of something happens, right? So I'm going to roll on the something happens, and again, these are kind of various. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to modify the something happens because these are just a random assortment of things. I could, in theory, roll on a different table, but I'm not thinking of it in the top of my head. And of course, I don't like spending forever trying to find the table or the right table. I could just say that I could, you know what? I'm going to say that because his 2 failures, and really bad failures at that, I'm going to roll on, and because I've been describing more of the cold stuff, I'm just going to roll on the Arctic encounters table anyway, even though the encounter check has not happened, but he's utterly lost. I'm going to just trigger one to happen anyway. So let us roll a D100 to see what encounter happens here. We got 18. So 18 is a blizzard kicks up. 1d4 damage around if unsheltered. So that is in fact in one of these 1d4 per hour if without shelter. So it kicks up, and they each are going to take a d4 of damage. Let's roll. First hour, they each take 3 points of damage. That hurts a lot. So Torson goes down to 13, and Diomedes goes down to 14. Okay, so we have an unfortunate situation here where there's an active blizzard, and every hour that they're in it, they're going to take some damage. So immediately they're going to try to find shelter. And finding shelter is finding a location, and I'm going to have them do a wisdom check to do that. So I'm actually going to have Torson step in and goes, "You have had trouble today, Torson. Let me aid. As I said, it is dangerous to do this alone. Let me help." So he's going to step in, and he's going to roll to try to find some place that is useful. And this is up in the mountains still. Yes, he's not been around, but the terrain type is something that he's used to. So I'm just going to do a standard roll, and it's still going to be a hard DC of 15. He does get +3 on this. And I don't think that he really has anything that can really truly help him, or any of his features and feats or spells really to help. He could do augury. Yeah, that doesn't really narratively make any sense. So let's just roll a 14 plus 3 is 17, beats the hard DC of 15. So after that first battering of this blizzard in the mountains, and both of them with their weapons and their arms in front of their face to protect while the wind is battering their body and doing damage to them, Diomedes stumbles and points forward into this small, crevice into the side of the ice-covered mountain. And he goes, "There, look, shelter." So they make their way into this shelter, and they are protected. But now they have to wait out the blizzard. And I'm going to ask, how long does the blizzard last? Because they could be there for a while and have to use up their resources, and to set up camp and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the Oracle basically like a how long type of question, right? So I'm going to say, how far along away is the end? So there is a distance thing here. So I'm going to just roll this as a 2d4. Interesting. Okay. So I need 2d4. 2d4, 2d4, 2d4. There we go. 2d4. So let's just roll these two. 4 and 2 is 6. In the next room, or about 10 to 25 miles away. So I'm going to interpret that is it's not very far away in terms of the end of the blizzard. The end of the blizzard comes in about a few hours as it's whipping around the thing. So they're stuck there for basically until night. They've been traveling for a couple of hours now. Now I'm going to roll a couple of encounter rolls while they're waiting in the blizzard, but it's just going to be while they're waiting, and it's not every hour. It's going to be every couple of hours because they're effectively a little safer while they're hunkered down. And this blizzard is coming through, but I like the idea of something maybe coming along with this blizzard. And there is something about this particular region, this hex itself, that is special, that I want to see if that's going to come into play or not. So on a 1, that thing might happen, and if that is that thing, this is going to be interesting. 2, so no. So they are hunkered down in this crevice, and Torson looks back, and it's dark back there, and they can't see. And he's trying to see if it goes any deeper. Does this cave go any deeper? Well, I think I need to ask the Oracle. I'm going to say that it is unlikely. This just might be a standard crevice, right? So I'm going to roll as probably unlikely. So I need to roll a D100, and 76 or higher, it will be 3. So no. So the odds of it being a cavern or something that they can go into was unlikely, and it turned out, of course, it is not that at all. So what I do want to have Torson do is they probably have to make camp now. And, you know, they have their basic supplies to set up a standard camp, but they can't go foraging for firewood, really. They can't go forage for firewood or brush or anything to help start a standard fire. They do have some basic things, but it's going to be at a disadvantage on setting up camp, and it's basically going to be while they're sleeping. I think they're going to have to take turns. Torson speaks to Diomedes and says, in, of course, Broken Thanian, watch each other overnight. We need to be full of care for each other. No? And Diomedes says, of course. Safety. I will watch. You sleep. So, what we're going to do here is, again, the blizzard starts to die down toward the end of the day, but it's dark. It is effectively, it's been the end of the day, and if they wanted to travel even further, they would have to make constitution checks to keep going. But since they found this little area to get away from the blizzard and the safety of this crevice, I'm actually going to have Torson start. Well, he's going to bed down in the back of this little crevice space. It's probably like a 20 by 10 space. It's kind of cramped and craggly and stuff like that. And Diomedes, used to being in stone environment, I think he's going to try to. He's going to use his intelligence to try to fashion some sort of windbreaker, or he's going to try to basically kind of guise the entrance to this place to feel more natural. Because if someone walked by and looked in, they would just see Torson and Diomedes. And Diomedes still wants to feel safe while he's on watch. So he's going to roll, and basically a fail state. This isn't going to be very hard. This is going to be normal. He gets no bonus. His intelligence bonus is 0. So he's going to roll, and standard straight roll. So let's just see if he can fashion something a little bit better for him. 2 plus 0, so no. So maybe there's just not enough material around, or the rock isn't broken up, or it's just ice. He is going to have to settle with just sitting down, squatting down in front of this entrance to this crevice space, and just staying on watch for the first part of the night. So I'm going to resume the encounters, because this is a dangerous and perilous space. So let us roll a few times while he is on watch. 6 and 3. Torson. Your shift. Wake up. Torson grumbles and is a little, what? Oh, right, sorry. Okay, you sleep. I watch. And so they do it again, or they swap, not again. So Torson, it's pitch black. He steps out a little bit. He looks up and down the apparent pathway that they had been following, and it is covered in snow. The path that they came from, they cannot see his feet. And if Diomedes hadn't found this crevice, they had no idea how much longer that they would have been traveling up the path. So let's roll for the encounters while he is on watch. 3 and 1. Oh, All right. Because the blizzard had passed, I think I'm going to have us roll on the mountain, uh, the mountain thingy, the mountain. Hoo boy, encounters. Let's see. So he is currently on watch, and he's looking up and down 71. We got a bristling rock warily guards its nest of 1d4 gigantic eggs. So we have a rock that he spots. And it says warily guards its nest. So that tells me that even if the rock notices Torson, it is guarding its nest, and it probably won't leave its nest. So we have Torson on watch, spotting the rock up in the distance, and tries to hunker down a bit and thinks to himself, oh no, those are not to be trifled with. I've heard stories about those. Has Torson even seen a rock? Probably not. But I don't think it needs a roll. I think he's heard enough stories from travelers and sailors that he probably has heard about them. So his shift ends. And we're going to do another cycle of them doing this. And so I'm just going to roll 4 times total to see if there's anything else that happens in the overnight. And they exchange words, and Torson goes, last shift. Be quiet. There's a rock. And he points in the direction of where the rock is. And the Minotaur nods. No aggression. If they're guarding that nest, we should be okay. We just can't go in that direction. Ooh, question. Is the nest in the direction that they need to go? I don't know. So I think I'm going to have to roll a 51 or greater. It is 40. So no, it is probably back and maybe up on the hill a bit. So, but behind them. So thankfully, they probably won't have to deal with the rock. And maybe that they were able to pass by it because it was during the blizzard and the rock was probably hunkered down as well. So that was kind of lucky that the blizzard picked up. They would have had to deal with a rock, a rock guarding its eggs. So we have a few more rolls to make throughout the night, the rest of the night. Another one on Diomedes' watch. Again, let's roll to see what happens. 28. And again, I will modify what the table is depending on the narrative and what makes sense at the time. 28. Goblins sneak along a ridge toward peasants. Now, we're in this special hex that is Arctic and mountainous. I am going to modify that saying, I think that the goblins are sneaking and trying to steal those eggs from the rock. And Diomedes is just sitting at watch, a slight smirk on his face. Is this something that he wants to watch unfold, to prevent? And as the priest of a neutral neutral god of Geed. Now, we all know that the gods of Shadowdark are intentionally left open for whatever campaign, whatever story setting that you want. But I'm just going to reread the neutral Geed, the god of feasts, mirth, and the wilds. Geed is usually peaceful, but primal storms rage when her anger rises. Many elves and halflings worship her. Well, and also including the Minotaur Diomedes as well. So, I'm going to say that he's going to cross his arms, lean up against the side of the crevice in his last watch, and he's going to do a silent kind of prayer to Geed. I thank you for the cover of the blizzard. You must be angered by something. But I take the blizzard as a blessing. It gave us the opportunity to find this space to sleep under the watchful gaze of the rock. These goblins, fools, trying to sneak into its nest and steal its eggs, its babies. I shall not intervene. I shall watch and see what nature will do to the foolhardy. All right, we've established something about Torson already. The fact that his neutral stance is as neutral as can be. He's watching something go by and choosing actively not to participate. So he has conviction. So I'm going to also just conviction as well. So he stands and just watches the interaction of the goblins. Now, the goblins, it said 2d4, I believe. I'm just gonna see, or is it 1d4? I can't remember. I want to remember. Remember how many goblins are sneaking to steal the eggs, mountains. 2d4, yeah. So just let's see how many goblins. Okay, 3 goblins are trying to steal the 4 eggs, and the rock is nesting and sleeping now. And let's just see. Does the rock spot them? I'm gonna say, I mean, they're sneaking, and goblins cannot be surprised. If you remember, they're one of those, like, they're pretty sneaky. So it's like one of those things, like, story wise, I want to see that the rock is most likely not going to, so it's unlikely. So 76 or higher, the rock wakes up in time. 79. So Torson, or Diomedes, while Torson is napping, sleeping, Torson is watching out the crevice, and he's watching these goblins sneak by and reach up into the nest, and they're standing on top of each other, right? These rock nests are massive, twigs and other brush weaved in and out of, thatch roof linings and hair and lots of other things, and even bones of its prey. And the rock turns around and immediately caws so loud that Torson wakes up. What's going on? Are we under attack? And Diomedes immediately goes, shush. and points to the rock, and they both watch the carnage that ensues, where the rock reels up and then just goes to town on these goblins. There's only 3 of them, and a rock is a massive creature. And, you know, the goblins are just trying to sneak in, so they probably weren't ready for a full-on assault. And I'm going to ask the Oracle again. Do they manage to get away with any of the thing? I'm going to say almost impossible. So it needs to be like a 95 or 96 for the thing. 91, 51. So no, like they absolutely fail in their attempt to steal one of the eggs, and they are eviscerated and gobbled up and probably chewed up, and, you know, a good midnight snack for the rock. Diomedes crosses his arms, shoves Torson's shoulder, and goes, I think it's your shift now. Me sleep and rest. Have good dreams of goblin guts. And then he goes to sleep. And one last roll for the night. Let's see. 6. Torson spends the rest of the early morning just kind of, you know, playing around with his bastard sword. Not really sharpening it with the stone, but just kind of like looking at the blade and pondering over what has been happening over the past few days, and decides that this sleeping Minotaur, this Diomedes, this curious and interesting traveling companion, and thinks, it's a good thing I have him around. I don't think I would have made it through that blizzard. May his God protect us, I guess. We'll see. I haven't really decided what in Torson's opinion of the gods or the god is. And I haven't really thought about that. But him knowing that, you know, Diomedes is some sort of priest leader and has decided to basically recruit him into his party and then traveling with him. He's perplexed as to why someone of faith would follow someone who is effectively an ex-mercenary pirate type of character. And he's having a little moment of a ponderous quandary of this creature can speak to me, and me only. And I have learned to speak its language. What shall we do when we meet others? Will they fight him? Will he fight them? Are we doomed to fight the world? Am I going to have to split ways down when we meet this oracle? If I can find them? Who knows? I am really going to have to sit and think. And as he sits and thinks, the sun does come up, and he can barely see wispy clouds off in the distance and just a peak of a sun from his perspective. It is a permacloud. And I think we will end today's session there. Well, that was an interesting one. We have Diomedes waking up and packing up camp. There wasn't much of a camp. but I am going to just bookkeep that they both used up a ration to do that that sleep, and it was eventful but not restless. They were able to sleep through the night for their entire their shifts, right? They just had an interesting encounter. So they are going to heal, I believe it is a 1d6 per night. I can't remember healing rules when they're traveling. La-di-da. Let me find it real quick. Set the tone, balance, blah, blah, blah. Oh, right, that is actually part of overland travel. Rest downtime. I need resting. Where is resting? Okay, come on. Here we go. Rest gains all lost hit points and recovers any stat damage. Okay. Talent spells regain their ability to be used after a successful rest. Okay. So they did indeed heal up their entire hit points. Okay. And I will say this just for solo play in my story, I'm going to utilize those rules. I kind of like a standard amount per day that they can heal, like a 1d4 per level or something like that, or step it up, a 1d6 and then a 1d8 all the way up to a 1d20, or you know what I mean, a scale. I kind of like that kind of thing too, but for my particular game today, or for this playthrough of Torson and Diomedes now, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use the standard rules. So thanks again, everybody, for joining me today. We will pick up with Torson and Diomedes ascending the Oracle Teeth Mountain range to the tallest peak in trying to find a rumored oracle to find some answers. Torson has wanted to find just more information on the world and the cultures and various things like that. So, again, thanks everybody, and until next time, I'll see you on the flip side.